You belong on every ground your feet grace, so don't ever feel out of place. Take up space and belong. This earth is your birthplace. So, I decided to look at Perfect Addiction from Prime Video and do a review on that. And so far, so good. This is giving me like BDSM, like Never Back Down, and what's the name of the freak? 50 Shades of Grey. I hate 50 Shades of Grey, but it's giving me like a mixture of Never Back Down and 50 Shades of Grey. So Sienna is this trainer who like trains MMA fighters or whatever, and Jax is supposedly like this, like he's like the undisputed on this movie or whatever. So they're dating. They meet while she trains him or whatever, and they start dating, and they're, you know, they're hot and heavy, like, you know, they show a lot of scenes of them fighting, of them sparring, and of them having sex, of course. But what ends up happening is he cheats on her with her little sister after she nurses him back to health. After he gets into an accident and breaks his leg, she nurses him back to health and get him prepared to fight again, and he cheats on her with her little sister. Losing him not only means that she lost him and also that she's beefing with her little sister, but it also means that she has nowhere to stay. So she's homeless, she has no money, doesn't really have a job, she's in school, that she doesn't really have anybody to turn to. So one of her friends from school, she talks to him and tells him what happened. He tells her that he has somebody who has a place that she can rent for $250 a month or whatever. But it seems like he just made that up and it wasn't true. Turns out the guy he was talking about was his brother, and he's also an MMA fighter. So he ends up having a match with Jax. And it's a illegal match or whatever, some type of underground event. And Sienna goes to the match and she sees them fighting. So she bets her last $100 on him to beat Jax, but he doesn't beat him. But also the fight was broken up because the cops came there or whatever, so they didn't get to finish fighting. But anybody with eyes could see that he was about to lose that fight. So she decides that she is going to train him so he can be Jax and she can get her revenge. At first he isn't with it. He doesn't agree that he's going to take the fight, the rematch or whatever. You can tell that he a little scared that he ain't gonna win. So it's like, I'm gonna pull out of this fight, I'm not gonna go through with it or whatever. But she tell him like, yes you are, I bet my last $100 on you, I don't have a place to stay or whatever, you're gonna let me train you and you're gonna give me a place to stay. So he finally agrees to her. They start training. She starts like altering his diet, his training program, making him train less because he used to train every day, but she tells him that rest days are important when you train. And she seems to be an expert at this, and I kind of wonder why she's not a boxer herself or an MMA fighter herself. And I see that it's because Jax told her that she was a better trainer or whatever. But I kind of feel like if you're really good at training people, why can't you be a good fighter? Like, she seems like a good fighter to me. She's able to get the best of both of these guys at some points or whatever. But he manipulates her to feel like she shouldn't fight and she should just be a trainer. So even though they've broken up, he still has her mind under control, and she's so addicted to him that she is training this dude to get revenge, and she wants him to beat him at their rematch. So he finally decides to take the rematch. It's scheduled, and now she takes the training up a notch. and that's where I pause or whatever, so I'll be back. But before I go, it just seems like they've already built a lot of sexual tension. She is also having dreams of having sex with both of them, which is messy, and Jack seems messy and like controlling, and like he isn't done with her yet. So I'm interested in seeing what happens. But like I said, it's giving me a mix between, like, you know, Never Back Down and 50 Shades of Grey. And I hate 50 Shades of Grey. But that's another topic. That's another topic for another day. What else did I want to say? Yeah, I don't know if y'all know this about me, because I probably have never talked about it on this channel, but I am obsessed with, not obsessed, but if I didn't have sickle cell, the two things that I would have wanted to do with my life is mixed martial arts, or three things: wrestling or boxing, or maybe even, and also football. I would want to play four of those sports, but my body was not designed for me to do things like that. So Sienna takes, what his freaking name? Caden, to Julian's gym to train, because they get into it with Jax. They were training at the gym with Jax or whatever. I mean, they were training at the gym that they were at. I forgot the name of it or whatever. And Jax was there training as well, and like he like tried to get into Sienna's head again, like talking to her or whatever. She tries to break away from him. He's looking at Caden spar against somebody, and he's like giving his critique or whatever, and like basically trying to make her feel stupid for pouring her energy into Caden or whatever. Like, he's never gonna beat me. I don't understand what you're doing over here or whatever. You know, like they go back and forth for a little while, and then he leaves her alone. So they get outside, and he gets into it with her again, and I think Kaden ends up jumping in, and they have some words, and then Jax like runs up on him, and they like wrestle for a little while, and she pushes Jax off of Caden, and he told her that he called her a princess, that she was telling him like, don't call me that, and he like, you used to look like one or something like that, or used to be beautiful like one, but not more than your sister. So she takes this like pipe or whatever, and she starts going at his motorcycle or whatever, and breaking it or whatever. And then her and Caden jump in the back of his brother's truck, and they ride off while Jax is like chasing after them. So now they can't fight at this, they can't train at this gym anymore. So she goes to Julian and tries to convince him to let them train there. Julian doesn't support what they're doing, the underground fighting. He doesn't support that. He tells them if they are going to fight, they need to be professional, meaning not just that y'all can't do the underground thing anymore, but also y'all don't need to be dating each other. Like, I see that look in his eyes when he look at you. I already see the sexual tension. I ain't with it. If y'all gonna train in this gym, stay away from each other while y'all are also training together. And like, just imagine training for a big martial arts fight with a man. Like, you're his trainer, and he's the fighter, and y'all are, and like you're pinning him down, and like he's and like, are you kidding me? Stay away from each other. Absolutely not. But we are going to take you up on that offer. Okay? Like, we're going to use this gym, but like, as far as staying away from each other, that's probably not going to happen. So, you know, the two of them are getting closer together, whatever. She goes and buys paint so she can paint his house, and like she's doing swatches on the wall, and he comes out and he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I know you've convinced yourself that you don't deserve a good home, but I'm painting these walls. And she like throws paint on him or whatever, and then they end up getting into a paint war or whatever, and then they end up kissing, and he breaks away from her, and he's like, we can't do it. I don't need to get distracted. And she like, you're right. You don't need to get distracted. Neither of us need to get distracted. Whatever. And so they and so she ends up going to a dress try on because they're both in Caden's brother's wedding. Well, she's in Caden. Yeah, both of them are in the wedding. So she goes to try on her dress, and while she's there, her sister is there, and the guy kind of like forces her to talk to her sister. They go back and forth. The sister tells her that Jax loves her, and she realizes that her sister is drinking the same Kool-Aid that she was drinking when she was with Jax. But it's kind of like, how can you blame her? I don't think I would be mad at my sister, because it's like, how can you blame her? He manipulated you the same way. He got you the same way. So you're condemning her for something that you just got out of. And if it wasn't for her, you would still be with him and he would still be doing the same things to you. So like, why are you condemning her for something that you yourself is still trying to break out of? He still got control of your mind because you're addicted to him to the point that you're obsessed, and you're training this guy to be, you're supposed to be training amongst it, but you're turning him into your little pet. And while I'm not mad at you, the reality is you're still hooked. You're hooked. How you gonna tell your sister that she crazy for doing something that you yourself are still doing? Make it make sense, okay? But the two of them, so she gets into it with her sister, then she leaves and goes to like this restaurant, and she's like eating stuff in her face with pancakes. Caden walks in, asks her if she wanted to talk, and he tells her she can talk to him about anything, and she opens up about the situation. And then, like, he tells her he's going to pay for her food or whatever. So when he goes to hand the money, she sees a tattoo of a woman on his arm. And she asks him, who was it? He freezes up and he's like, I don't want to talk about it. And she like, I just opened up to you. Why won't you open up to me? And, you know, he takes the money, puts it on the table and walks out. And so, like, they're mad at each other. And also, while they were arguing, another girl that they go to school with was telling them that, you know, I know y'all are, like, training for this fight or whatever, but y'all don't have to be hard on each other. And Kaden walks out after she says that. So, you know, there's a couple of scenes of, like, both of them, like, being sad, whatever. She's running, and then Kaden ends up, like, running with her or whatever, chasing behind her, but she doesn't realize that he was following her until he touches her, and she's like about to snap his wrist, and he like, it's me, it's Kaden, whatever. And she like, are you following me? And he like, kind of, or whatever. And like, they start talking about, you know, how he apologizes to her for getting mad at her or whatever. And she tells him, he tells her that he doesn't feel like he's good enough for her or whatever, and it hurts him that he can't give her everything that she deserves. And she like, you are enough. Like, whatever happened to you in your past that made you the person that you are now, that person is enough for me or whatever. They start kissing, then they have sex, and from there the distraction presents itself. But you know, it's a couple of scenes of them like, you know, training and doing all this and kissing and in between. Same thing she was doing with Jax. So she's making the same mistake or whatever. But I feel like Kaden is different from Jax. I don't see that personality in him. But you never know. Sometimes when a person gets to the level that Jax has gotten to, the ego starts taking over. So I don't feel like he's that type of dude. I don't know if it will ever change him, and I hope I'm right. But you know, Julian realizes that they're dating, and he like fusses them out, and he like, have y'all seen Jax fight? Have y'all seen the last fight that he's done? And he shows them the fight of Jax like knocking this guy out and then beating him up after he literally knocks him out. And he's like, are you ready to send him into that? Y'all got a week left. You ready to send him into that? And she like, yeah, we'll be ready or whatever. And he like, if I feel like y'all distracted again, I ain't warning y'all no more. I'm kicking y'all out my gym. And so after that, they keep training. They're also dating, but it seems like they're more focused on winning the fight or whatever. So the two of them. Oh yeah, after they had was that the first time? After they had sex the first time, she wakes up and he's not in the bed, so she's a little worried, and she tells him like, if you want to forget this ever happened, we could do that. And he's like, no, I would never do that. He's like, I don't want just one night with you. Like, I want a relationship. And so she's like, okay, cool. And after that, they decide that they're together. So, they go through all of that I just talked about. And then now they are going to his brother's wedding. They're both in a wedding or whatever, and it's the scene where they're dancing together or whatever. I feel like some drama is about to come. This is like the last 30 minutes that I'm about to watch, so I can feel the drama brewing. But so far this movie has been really good. It has me like sitting up in bed watching it, and I'm a little achy, my bones are aching a little bit or whatever, but I'm sitting up watching it because it's exciting. I haven't seen a movie, especially romance movie, this exciting in a long time. And like, I love the mixture of the MMA with the romance, and like the fact that both of them are like fighters. Also, I forgot to mention that Julian tells her to spar against this girl who has been winning her fights, and she actually does well against the girl, and Julian is like, you're ready, you should fight, I want you. He really is pushing her towards fighting because he sees that she is really good at it. But Jax has already gotten in her head and tell her that she's a better trainer, so she's afraid of it. I feel like she doesn't even realize that that's the reason why she won't fight, is because he told her that she shouldn't. But he's like, she's won 3 fights and you had her like easy. It was easy for you. What do you mean? Like, you need to be in that ring. And she like, it's nothing, and tries to act like she wasn't excited about the way that she beat that girl. It was just a sparring match, but still she beat her. But I'm interested in seeing what happens. I hope she does end up fighting. That's how I want it to end. I care about the guys fight, but that's not the most important thing to me. The most important thing is her realizing her calling, and it's not just training men to fight in these fights or whatever, but her actually doing it herself. But it's pretty good so far. Like I said, it's very exciting. It's like, I'm interested in knowing what happens next or whatever. These are the type of movies that keeps me wanting to do reviews like this. And I actually feel like I love doing reviews like this because y'all get in my like first reactions when I'm in the midst of being excited, and I like that. But I like it. It's a little spicy. It's enough to get you in your hormones. It's interesting. It's entertaining. It has the suspense. The storyline is amazing, and I'm just waiting to see how it ends. Just like I thought, I knew drama was right around the corner. So Sienna goes into the bathroom at the reception, and guess who's in there but Jax. And he starts going on and on about their relationship and her and how they were so good together, getting in her head, coming up close to her, trying to kiss her, and all types of stuff. And Kaden comes into the bathroom as Jax is leaning into Sienna, and she pushes him and is like, you can't. He basically was telling her like, you are never going to get over me. And then she pushes him and she was like, yes, this is me breaking the cycle. Like, you will not have power over me again. And Kaden comes in and Jack started telling him like, she's just using you. You really think that she want you over me? Like, I'm the better choice. And once this fight is over between the two of us, she just gonna leave you anyway. And it gets into Kaden's head a little bit. And then Jax yells out something about Kaden killing his mom, and that gets into his head. So they end up fighting at the reception. Like, I mean, fighting in front, and it goes from the bathroom to where everyone else is, and Jax ends up breaking Kaden's rib, and Sienna goes after Kaden and tries to like calm him down or whatever, and he's upset because what Jax just said, and he like forget that guy, he don't know me. And she like, I don't know you either, if I'm being for real. Like, you ain't never told me nothing, so tell me what happened. So he tells her what happened with his mom, and he basically was like, he just was a bad kid. She raised him on his own. He was a bad kid. He was always getting in trouble, and he was out partying or something like that. And I don't know if the mom went to like find him, and she ends up getting killed by a drunk driver, but he blamed himself for it. He feels like he killed her or whatever, when, I guess, because she was looking for him. So it really got to him, and you know, him and Sienna are going back and forth about the situation or whatever, and um she was basically telling him that it wasn't his fault and whatever, but he ends up telling her, like, basically what Jack said: you're not going to be here after we fight anyway, so like you might as well leave now. Like, I don't need you. And she like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't need me. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have gotten here. But she didn't say that. She just tell him that you just depressed, and you're antisocial, and you just want to lock yourself in your basement and never face what happened with your mom, whatever. Like, basically, you're a coward. And, you know, he tells her, don't show up at the fight tomorrow. I don't need you. And she like, tomorrow? You shouldn't be fighting. And he like, I don't need you. Like, stop trying to tell me what to do. I'm going to fight, and I'm going to win on my own. And he leaves. And, you know, Sienna is pissed off. So, like, she's in the gym boxing, or whatever, the night that they're about to fight. And Julian walks up to her, and he's like, you about to leave, right? Because, you know, I don't care what happened between y'all, but we don't abandon our fighters. Like, we don't abandon them, so you have to go to this fight. Like, you don't get to sit here and seep in your anger. So she ends up going to the fight. She shows up a little later, not like at the last minute, but like she shows up a few minutes after it starts. And and Jack starts off beating Kaden or whatever, and he ends up like kicking Kaden in that spot where he broke his rib or whatever. And Kaden's on the floor, and he is like towering over him, but and Kaden is like, he pulling a Killmonger. Is this your king? Walking around the ring antagonizing everybody who's supporting Kaden or whatever. Like, is this y'all king? This the best y'all got? Like, I'm about to eat this nigga up for dinner. But Kaden looks and sees Sienna's face, and it puts a little bit of fight in him. So he stands up, and you know, gets back into the fight, starts fighting him or whatever. They go back and forth for a while, and he finally finds an opening. Jax, I think, catches his leg or something like that, and that's his opening, and he kicks him and knocks him out, and he wins the fight or whatever. Sienna goes into the ring, and she's cheering or whatever. They end up hugging, and they kiss. Jax is out for a little while, but he ends up waking back up and seeing them hugged up. Stands up and swings as hard as he could. Thinks he was aiming for Kaden, but he ends up hitting Sienna and knocking her out. Like, she is in a coma for 3 days. Knocking her out in a coma for 3 days. For the first maybe day or so, Kaden was by her side, but then he goes to their house and he writes her a letter and leaves it with Julie, and he leaves. She ends up waking up 3 days later with all of her friends and family around her. Her sister was there, Kaden's brother was there, another one of their friends, and Julian. And the Kaden's brother asked her, what can they get for her? Anything. They'll get anything for her, just name it. And she like, nigga, go to your honeymoon. Why are you here? And her sister is like, she's right, we got her, you good, go ahead to your honeymoon. So he leaves, and then she asks where Kaden is, and Julian says he was here for like the first 2 days, but then he gave me this and he left, and he gives her the letter, and she reads the letter, and at first I'm like, that nigga, like, why would he leave her, whatever. And then she reads the letter, and it says, when you love someone, you never know how far you would go for them. When I was holding you in my arms, I started thinking about all the things that I would do for you or whatever, and I realized that I did not want to be a part of the problem. I didn't want to be a part of the reason why you don't I don't want to be a part of the reason why you don't achieve greatness. And he was like, if I stayed around, you would just be in my shadows pushing me to be the best while running from your own greatness. So I'm leaving so you won't do that. And I was like, it actually brought tears to my eyes, because you really don't see. This is the type of love that I always be telling my friends about, or people in general when I'm talking to them. And I always say, people think that love makes you stick around, fight through everything, whatever is going through. And I was like, no, love actually lets you know when to leave. When you are being a detriment to a person, a person is addicted to you. They're obsessed. They will do anything to keep you around, and you know this. And you know that this gives you power, but you decide that you gonna stay. Most people are not gonna give up power like that. They're gonna stay around. They're gonna get whatever they can out of that person, and then they move on to the next. But if you actually love that person, you would leave them. You see that you're no good for them. You see that they are fixated on you. They're fixated on everything surrounding you, and they're neglecting themselves because of it. Leaving so that person, and sometimes it don't even gotta be forever. Sometimes you just need to leave them for a little while so they can realize what's happening, so they can realize what they are doing, so they can get out of that, and they can become the person that you know that they can be or whatever. And I feel like that's what he did. That's something that Jax would never do, would have never done. He would have never left her, because he loves power, and most people are Jax. Men and women, they love power. They love having that control over somebody. They love having somebody who's obsessed with them, who would do anything for them, who would throw their life away for them. And it's sad. Like, I wish more people would do what Kaden did, but the reality of it is that's not gonna happen. But even though she was angry at him, she knew he was right. He was just another project for her to procrastinate when it came to, you're a fighter. Like, why are you training people? You should be in the ring. It actually would have been more empowering if she would have showed up, took him out of the ring, and fought Jax herself. But I knew that wasn't going to happen, but it would have been empowering. But this was also empowering for him to tell her, like, bruh, you're great. You should not be sitting in the shadows training people. You should be fighting. And he left so she could get it in her head. And she was mad, but she realized that he was right. She had to admit. Jax also showed up at the hospital to see her or whatever, and he telling her, like, he's sorry he didn't see her, and that's a lie. He saw her in that ring. He did not care who he hit. He was mad because something was taken from him that he thought was his property forever, and he was wrong. And she basically tells him, like, you don't have a chance with me. I don't care if you apologize. I don't care if you bring peace offerings. It's never gonna happen. And she tells him, like, you didn't love me, but you can find love, but you have to find it within yourself first. And he asked her if she thought that it was too late for him to redeem himself. And she said she don't think that it's too late for nobody to redeem himself. And I think that's a lie. Some people are never going to be good people, and that's okay. Like, that the sooner we see that, the better off we'll be. Some people are never going to be good people. It doesn't matter how many good people they have in their lives. Actually, having a lot of good people in their lives makes it worse. It makes it worse. They're never going to be good people. And she was like, the redemption is not, anybody can be redeemed, but I wouldn't hold my breath. And he like, you're right. This nigga never he was never gonna change. He just kind of wanted one last thing to see if he had some type of power over her, and she showed him that he did. And I was glad that she did. But her sister made up, and she's back in the gym training people and stuff or whatever. So Kaden ends up showing up at the gym in the last scene, and he tells her that he was sorry for leaving her, but he couldn't stand to see her do the same thing with him that she did with Jax, and she deserves to be, you know, great at what she does too or whatever. And he tells her that he loves her and that's why he did what he did. And then he walks away. And she tells him, you know, I read your letter and you were right. Like, I was in his shadows and I was in your shadows. And I was mad at him. And I let my anger for him control me. And I poured it into you rather than, you know, forgiving him and moving on with my life. And she tells him, basically, like, you're right, I got the message, like, you're right, I could be great, I don't want to be in the shadows no more or whatever. And the two of them are talking, and he's like, she asked him, oh, you're in Philly now? He said he was in Philly with his uncle, and she like, so Philly? And he like, well, actually, not really. I'm, you know, looking for a place to stay. If you know anybody that's renting a room, just let me know or whatever. And they're about to kiss, but Julian like comes in smacking the gloves together or whatever, so they break away from each other. And Julian tells Kaden thank him for keeping his lights on, for prolonging the inevitable or whatever, keeping his gym open for a little while longer. And he was like, but it's still gonna close or whatever. And Sienna is like, you need a champion. And he's like, he looks at Kaden and he's like, you're like, you gonna be the champion? Like, you sure you ready for that? And she goes and writes her name on like his little thing. It was something where he like his fighters list or whatever. So she puts her name on there and she's like, no, I'm talking about me. And it goes off like that. So she is planning to finally go for it. And I'm happy for this ending. And like I said, sometimes in a situation like that, when you're making a sacrifice for somebody that you love, to me, that's love. Somebody leaving me alone because they know that they are hindering me from doing something is more love to me than them sticking around and like hindering me when they know that they are. People be knowing when they're hindering you. They know when they're standing in your way. They know when you can do better. They know all of these things, but a lot of people are not going to leave you alone because of it. It actually feeds their ego that's happening. And I love this movie because it showed this. It showed an example of what I feel like is actually unconditional love. I feel like we've been conditioned to believe that if we stick it out through the hard things, we stick it out through the cheating, we stick it out through the fighting and the abuse and all of this stuff, that's love. And that's not love, bro. That is toxic. It's not love. It's toxic. It's obsession. It's addiction. And it's a habit. A lot of the times, what y'all be feeling be so small. It's so much smaller than love, but y'all like to label it love. Y'all like to label it love because love makes it seem so much greater than it is, but it's not. You actually are not in love. You're addicted to that abuse and that pain that person is causing you. It makes you feel something. You get a rush out of it. Pain feels like love. It does. The back and forth, the hot and cold, the on and off feels great because it's evoking these feelings in you that you don't know how to name. So you name it love and you convince yourself that you're in love when you're actually not. You're an addict. and you need to get out of that situation. And it's hard to hear something like that. It's hard to say that, which is why when I say this to people, they call me cold-hearted. You've never been in love with nobody. Just because I know when to walk away, because I would much rather be away from somebody than be abusing them and being mean to them and not giving them my best self. I'm cold-hearted. Sure, I'll be cold-hearted because I just refuse. But I'm glad that this movie had that message in it. And I know a lot of people not going to get the message, but whatever. That's the message that I got. But all in all, it was a great movie. I do give it 5 out of 5 stars. I do feel like it's worth the watch. It's really exciting. I haven't seen any exciting romance movies in so long, and I love that they did this. It was straight to the point. There wasn't no holes in the plot and stuff like that. Like, it had a little mystery at first, but then everything comes out when it's supposed to, and it was, like I said, straight to the point. And I love storylines that are like that. Sometimes the mystery is cool, but it be prolonging the inevitable. Like, we know how this is gonna end. Just end it. Okay, it was an hour and 30 minutes. Perfect. I love it, and I think that y'all should go watch it because it was such a good story. But thank y'all for watching this review. Let me know what you think about it. If you've seen this movie, how do you feel about it? Did you get that same message that I got, or you got something different? Also, what do you feel about what my theory is about love, and that being an example of that? And also, does that example make you understand my theory better? Or do you feel like loving a person is sticking it out? That may be what you think. But don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you think about this movie after you watch it. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye. Before you go, check out my website at srgraham.org and subscribe to my mailing list to get exclusive updates on works in progress, other news, and blog posts. Thank you.